So the next part of the plugin we're going to dig into is the geometry panel. This is where we're going to start specifying whether things are world meshes or collision meshes, as well as telling things to billboard, and where we can make certain meshes into buttons that will call animations. Basically, there are two different types of objects / meshes in Nowhere. The collision ones and the world ones. The collision ones are not going to be visible, and they're going to be the meshes that you walk on. They're the meshes that are the walls that you run into. It's the navigatable mesh that you are able to walk on top of, and your physics collider will interact with inside of the Nowhere engine. And remember, you will not see these meshes once they're exported. World meshes are the exact opposite. If you only had world meshes, you would fall through them, but they are the only meshes that you see. This is done so the collision meshes can be simplified to a greater degree than the world meshes are. We want to do this for performance implications, right? And it's important to keep the collision mesh triangle count as low as we can. Where doing that for the visual meshes is not as important, especially with the GLTF export. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new collection just to stay organized. Over here, new collection, we're going to call it collision. We're going to be working in this collection, and I'm going to start duplicating some meshes, and we're going to turn them into collision meshes. So if I go ahead and just Control V, copy objects, and paste them, we'll call this table nav. And that's just the empty. But in reality, what we want is this object, right? So maybe we want to change this, copy it, change this to 1, change this to table nav, hit Alt-P, clear parent, and keep transformation. Now, one thing that's very important to note about collision meshes is that it always has to be in the root of the hierarchy for the GLTF file, which means it can have no parents, right? So I just cleared its parents, and that's something that needs to be done for nav meshes to work. We also have to apply all transforms before we export when we're using nav meshes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this old hierarchy that we no longer need, and I already went ahead and cleared all the parents of our table nav mesh. Now the next and final step in order to make this into a working nav mesh is to hit Control A, and we're going to apply all transforms. So now that means the scale, rotation, and location are at 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, all evened out. It's the center point of this mesh is at 0, 0, 0. And that is our world origin. So that's something that is required for each and every nav mesh. So now, right now, the only walkable part of this world is this cube, which is, we don't want that exactly. We want more. We want to be able to step on this apple and sit on it. So we're going to do the same thing. Copy, paste, copy objects, paste them. And we're going to go ahead and click on it, go through its hierarchy, name it apple nav, right, and then Control A, all transforms, easy, boom, done. Delete the hierarchy, now we have another nav mesh. We do the same thing for the coffee cup, the teacup, and then we should be good with this base one, right? So let's do coffee cup real quick, let's do copy objects, paste them, go grab the object, cup nav, Alt-P, clear, Control A, all transforms, done. Delete hierarchy. Let's do this right here. Maybe we'll put the lid on too. So for my nav mesh, I'm going to actually combine all these three together, I think. So I'm going to click all three right here, and maybe this one, and this one. No, not that one, just this one. So now we have all, that's going to be our nav mesh, right? I'll copy those objects, I'll paste those objects, go in here. I'm going to have to select like all of the, let's just go ahead and select the different objects. I'm going to combine them together. Control J, and then I'm going to make this the teapot nav. Alt P, clear parent, keep information, Control A, all transforms, done. So let's get rid of delete hierarchy. Now we have 4 things, and if we turned off, I'm going to do a little organizing real quick. Take this off, and I go in this collection. These are going to be all my entities, right? So I don't need the camera for nowhere. I'm going to delete that. We have the text in here, which we're going to have to organize again anyways. But, cool. So let's just name those entities. Down. If we turn off our entities and we turn off all these, you'll see right now this is what we have as a collision mesh. And we don't need these materials again, that's for sure. So we can go ahead and delete these, and they're duplicates because I copied them. I didn't link duplicate them because we don't want to link duplicate nav meshes. They can't really share object data because we're going to end up clearing their transforms, and we don't want to have the same transforms applied to our world objects because that makes animating things a lot harder. So let's remove all of the materials. We'll go back to the non-lit view just to see what we're looking at. And that looks like a very clean, simple nav mesh. Like pretty good. So let's bring back these objects. We can turn off our collision for 1 second. We're going to turn off this again. And now we just have like a few objects, right? So we have the tomato, we have the eggs, and earlier I combined these all into one object, which was going to make making our nav meshes that much easier. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and try to start with the eggs. Copy, paste. And these eggs are going to go right in the collision. I'm going to turn them back on, and I'm going to go ahead and turn these off. So now we have our collision egg mesh. And within our collision egg mesh, I am going to name this eggs nav. I'm going to go ahead and rip out all of the textures, and we're going to heavily decimate this again. So right now, we only got 49,000 triangles. It's still a lot for these 2 meshes. We need to decimate as much as we possibly can without sacrificing the fidelity of the nav mesh. And sacrificing the fidelity of the nav mesh is a lot harder to do than the fidelity of the visual mesh. We don't really care about a little teeny bit of cracking here and there. We only care about big gaps. So let's go ahead and go back to the decimator, and we can pull it down and see what's looking all right. So we don't care if we get those little bit of, oh, who cares, whatever. It's just a little bit of misformation around the circles and stuff, and I've already cut the poly count in half. So we can keep going, right? Until this really is broken, and that's a little too much. But that is about like what we're looking at, right? We might be able to even do, no, we don't want that much. That's not bad. Maybe 0.25 again. And that is respectable. So now we're at 7,000. Fine, understandable, apply, easy. It also looks like we have some excess geometry in one of these. Yeah, that looks like too much for the coffee cup. Unneeded. Let's go in here. Maybe not. It looks like the arm. Okay, it's pretty clean geometry. I take that back. So that's what's needed to get that geometry to be that clean. So we'll leave that as is. The next one we want to pull up is maybe the banana. So let's take our banana, control it, copy, paste it, and turn off our banana. Go to this banana, go to our mats. Get rid of all the ones we don't like here. And let's make sure, this one we have to go back and do it too. I never did it. Oh, let's go ahead and apply all my transforms. Same thing here, let's apply all my transforms. Now these 2 are fine. We're getting high up in the triangle count again, so let's just do another decimation on the banana. Again, it doesn't need to look pretty now, it just needs to work as an nav mesh. So let's pull that way down too. That looks good. Looks good to me. Apply that. And now we got a banana nav mesh. Let's get the eggplant, right? So let's grab our eggplant. And I'm noticing this now. It looks relatively shiny, right? So I'm gonna go back to the shading tab. I'm gonna go to my material, and I'm gonna turn down my specular all the way. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn up my roughness. So we get rid of that weird shininess. So where's my roughness? Roughness. There it is. Turn off my roughness. I'll go back up to it. And that should make it a little better, at least. Yeah, specularly did it. Cool. That'll help with that, the look of that a little bit. Let's go back to layout. And I just edited the wrong material, so we're gonna have to go edit that again in the visual with the visual mesh, which is fine. But this is going to be, no, I haven't edited it yet. Cool. This material 2 is used quite a few times by quite a few meshes. Very interesting. We're gonna dig into that later, but cool. We have that. Let's copy the objects, paste the objects, make it the eggplant nav, and then turn back off this eggplant. I'm going to take this one, we're going to clear out our materials. That's fine for now. Let's check out how it looks. It looks like it's a pretty clean mesh. I can end up deleting these, like that's not a problem if we need to. Yep, looks cool. So let's just take it and control apply all transforms. Now we have 3 of them. Now we just need the tomato, I believe, and yeah, the watermelon plate. So let's go ahead and do the watermelon plate real quick. Copy that object, paste the object, turn off the watermelon nav. We're gonna get rid of the mat. We're gonna go Control A, all transforms done. Tomato. Let's go ahead and copy objects, paste objects, turn off the tomato nav. Let's remove our materials, they're unneeded. And that looks like our total nav mesh is still 84,000, pretty big, unneeded. I think we can decimate this tomato down quite a bit. So let's add a modifier, decimate the add a decimation modifier and pull it. Yeah, see, we can pull it down a lot without losing. We're not worrying about the materials anymore, right? We're just looking at a straight mesh. And that looks like it's all right. So we cut that down a bunch, right? So let's just apply that. Now we're down to 50,000 triangles for a nav mesh, which is pretty good. It's not bad, really at all. So we can try to find out where a lot of our meshes are coming from. That's got 7,000. This has got another 7,000, 2,000, 11,000. Really, 11. Okay, that one might be able to. We can pull down a little bit. That one's only got 5. Let's try to add a decimation to this one. See what happens, just for the hell of it. We'll pull it down. See, yeah, we can pull this down a lot. There we go. Get it down to 2,000. Let's see if we can pull this down even more, I guess. It looks like that's going to be tough, but yeah, no, it's not. Let's leave that alone. I think that looks okay. 40,000 triangles for the nav meshes is respectable. It's pretty good. Now, what we really have to do, and one of the main parts of this video is, we have to make sure when you click on these meshes that they are not world meshes still. They need to be collision meshes, and we also need to make sure that all of our transforms are applied for each one of the videos, or each one of these meshes, which they seem to be. We can click them all transforms, everything's applied. You can also select all of these. And in the geometry, if you select more, the geometry panel, if you select more than one mesh, you're going to have buttons that pop up that let you make them all a certain type, either world or collision mesh. So we go ahead and we select collision. These will all become collision meshes. Right, so now if we go back to our project and we select collision meshes, boom, these are all going to be classified as collision meshes. Really nice to organize and grab all of your collision meshes at once. Pretty handy and useful. So that is our basics of collision meshes. Now, there are a few other features in the geometry tab, and we're going to get onto those pretty soon. But one of the main, or the only configurable part of a collision entity is the friction and restitution values. Now, you can change these to make them either the nav mesh more slippery or more bouncy. And and make friction go up to make it less slippery, make it go down and make it more slippery. You can add more restitution to make it less bouncy and less restitution to make it more bouncy. I take that back. You make the restitution of equal to 1, it will be more bouncy, and you lower the restitution, and that will make it less bouncy. So these values you can play with, and that will affect how the player actually interacts with that map mesh in the world. So for now, let's hide our collision meshes. And let's go ahead and pull back open our world meshes that we need to see. And when I click on a normal world mesh, so let's say we make it the apple. Okay, the apple stem. Let's make the apple stem a fun clickable object that will trigger some sort of animation in the world. In order for this to happen, we do need an animation. Not sure what that animation is going to be, but we can think about that. We can also add billboarding inside this geometry tab, which makes a mesh face the camera at all times. And you want to have the front of that mesh, the part you want facing the camera, to be the local negative y-axis, similar to all the rest of our entities inside of Nowhere. And you can choose either vertical or omnidirectional billboarding. And if you choose vertical, it's only going to rotate along the vertical axis, and if you choose omni, it will rotate on all axes to be facing your camera at all different points. This can be used to add grass to scenes, it can be used for signs and text, and actually we should probably, let's do an example for that right now, and we can make some sort of text that labels the teapot that billboards for the user. Or maybe, you know what? Let's actually give names to each one of these zones, okay? So, for instance, let's give the tomato a name and call it Club Tomato. So we're going to go ahead and let's add text. We'll scale this up by 100, 10, 100. Rotate it by 90 on the X. Edit it. We'll call it Club Tomato. Go back to object mode, we can go over our text settings. Let's make sure it's centered on both of its axes, so the center point is dead center. We can then click on this, we can snap the cursor to selected, right? So our cursor, no, let's snap the origin to center of mass volume. And then snap the cursor to the selected, and then snap this to the cursor. And then we'll pull this up just above Club Tomato. Now the goal of this is to have this Club Tomato sign now be spinning on top of this tomato and always facing the users or the players. And if we were to go into our local mode, you'll see that the local Y is pointing up, and we don't want that. So in order to fix this, we can go into edit mode. Well, first we have to convert this to a mesh. So let's go ahead and convert to a mesh. We'll go to edit mode, select all. We're going to rotate all of it in edit mode by 90 degrees on the x-axis, or negative 90 degrees on the x-axis, and go out of it. Now that's the direction in the local Y. We need to flip that, so let's go back to edit mode. Rotate on the X by 180 degrees. Tab it in. That means this way is going to be facing people. So now we, outside of edit mode, can go to rotate Z 90, X 90, sorry, negative 90. Now we have Club Tomato facing up, and the negative Y is pointing in the back of the letters, which is what we want. So now when we click on this text, we can edit the material. Let's make it the red, same as the tomato, I'd assume, right? I'm not sure. I think it's called shadeless, actually. So yeah, we'll do shadeless. Maybe we'll duplicate this one, and we'll go to the shading tab, and we will let's make this a PBR shader actually. So instead of this, we'll go over here and make it a principled BSDF. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll make it a principled BSDF. And then we'll just go to emission, and let's make the emission red. So it sort of glows. And cool. So now we have a glowing club tomato emission on the material. Let's call it red emission. That's fine. We'll go back to layout. Now we have this club tomato over here. We'll let our base color would probably be the same as our emission color. That will rotate. I'm going to scale it down a teeny bit. And these words will rotate with the user. Now, in order to make them rotate, we need to select the billboarding properties. And we don't want them to rotate on all axes. We only want it to rotate on the vertical z-axis in Blender, y-axis in Nowhere. So we're going to click vertical. And this is going to make this billboard towards the player at all times.